Hi. Thank you very much, Mr. Coteau, for talking to us. My name is Jeremiah Kujeram from Ghana and Toronto News. And you being the Parliamentary Assistant for Ministry of Culture and Tourism, we in the Ghanaian community have a few questions that we haven't yet got answers for. First of all, what does the Ministry of Culture and Sports really stand for in terms of the Ghanaian community? What do we expect? What can you do for it?
I think that if you look at the ministry, its mandate, tourism, culture, and sport, is to really promote what stands out and defines who we are as Canadians, as Ontarians. We have many different cultures that celebrate, many different things in this province. For example, the arts community has events like the Juno Awards, Luminato. The Busker Festival. There's all these different types of festivals that take place. Then there's more culturally specific events like Caravana, different types of parades. The Ministry of Culture and Tourism and Sport, and I'm going to speak more from the culture side, is really there to help support these types of events to help promote the culture in Ontario. And then that really connects to tourism, right? Because we know, like, for example, Caravana is something, as someone whose father is from Grenada, who grew up in the Grenadian culture, Caravana itself is an event we know brings in 1 million people into the city.
Yes, at a time.
And it celebrates our, African Caribbean heritage in this province, but also connects people from the African diaspora internationally to this one event. So that's really what we're here to do, is to highlight and support what's best in this province from a cultural standpoint. But it's not limited just to culture as ethnicity culture, but also culture as different arts. And for example, we support the Royal Ontario Museum, the Science Centre, the Ontario Art Gallery. So it's those types of cultural aspects too. So. But in addition to that, the libraries fall under the portfolio, and there's many other things that fall under that jurisdiction. The Trillium grant system. So if there are organizations that are from the Ghana community, they can look at Trillium for application for support.
Trillium.
The Trillium Foundation, yes, and also there's many different types of application, like the Celebrate grants. Different types of grants they can apply for to help preserve, promote, and really share. And that's the most important thing: share their culture, with their culture. It's because the Ontario is part of their culture as well, right? So I think that's what we're here to do, and that's what we're doing.
Okay, from your experience being in politics, specifically around the Ministry of Culture and Tourism. What are some of the direct benefits that you think we as a group, meaning we as a Ghanaian or an African community right here in Ontario, directly can benefit from any of these that you can offer us? So
the question is, being involved in government, how can the government help the people of Ghana descent?
Ghana and pretty much the continental Africa, I should say.
Continental Africa.
Yeah.
Well, I think you have to look at Canada as a whole, right? The type of country Canada is. I know if you look at historically, when the sanctions were taking place against South Africa for apartheid, Canada was a strong leader in that push. When it comes to supporting different types of organizations that help to promote the economic stability, political stability, social stability of the continent. Canadians are there.
Yes.
If you look even in our Legislative Assembly, War Child was headed by Dr. Eric Hoskins, right?
Yes.
So there is some strong support there on a direct level. But I think if you look at it more indirectly, like the different types of educational institutions we have, making sure that people have opportunity and access to education, if they're new immigrants to this country, making sure that they have an equal opportunity to build a foundation and a life in this country, because this country has a lot to offer people. So people who are coming into the country from all different parts of the world, they arrive in Ontario. What I can guarantee them is that they'll have a very fair chance to be successful if they work hard and they push forward to really build a life here. I think that's what Ontario offers. If you look at government programs and supports, well, it really depends on the specific ministry and the specific types of programs that are out there. But I know if you go into a place like the Malvern community, this government brought forward a healthcare taboo unit that supports, again, people from the African Canadian community. So it's Afrocentric focused healthcare. This is the types of programs that are unique to specific communities. There's so many of them that are around.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on this Afrocentric?
Well, there's a program in the Malvern community. Well, it's not a program. It's an actual healthcare facility called Taboo that is there to support all members of the community. However, they have a very specialty, and that's working with people from the African Canadian community. So, as you know, being someone who is of African descent, sickle cell runs in my family. For example, my cousin has a very serious case of sickle cell. She has 2 or 3 episodes per year, and it's really tough for her. So when you have an African-centered healthcare facility, you can really start to focus on those types of conditions that are specific to certain groups. We also know that there are other factors that affect the community. From education, from and I'm talking about blacks as a whole in Ontario. Education, healthcare specific, employment. There's lots of specific things that are a little different in our community than some communities, and we need to recognize those, and as a community to work on them with governments to continue to push forward.
Has there been any kind of very recent collaboration between the government and any of the African community? When I refer to African, I'm talking specifically
continental Africa.
Continental Africans, yes.
Not that I'm aware of, but again,
or any plans towards that?
We have Charles de Sousa, the minister responsible for citizenship, is more responsible for that file. So me personally, I have not worked with specific consulates or specific government, continental African agencies directly, but I work with many, organizations that work at helping, people from African Canadian background. So.
I'm not sure if you could really answer this question, but then, is there any particular budget allocation for the the continental African communities here, or we just have to go fight for it ourselves?
No, the provincial government focuses on provinces, right? So this is it's a provincial government that focuses on healthcare education inside the province. I think more for if you're looking at specific funds that are specifically designed for international development, that's all within the federal government.
Oh, that would be for the federal.
Yeah. So you'd look at, like, for example, the Canadian Development Agency. I think it's CIDA.
CIDA, yes.
That's a huge, contributor to international development things.
Definitely.
But we're a provincial government. Our responsibility is working with municipal governments, with with the province within our borders, to look. But when things come up, like, for example, there's international relief efforts in specific countries because of atrocity, our government steps up all the time.
Definitely.
And tries to figure out ways to help, right?
Definitely.
When it comes to working with people that are in the province of Ontario who are from, communities from around the world, we look at ways to help them strengthen themselves, upon arrival, so they can, and in many ways they go back to help their communities, while still residing in the province.
Definitely,
right?
Yeah.
So it could be, and that's just a responsible thing to do, right? You're here, you're new to the country, you build a strong base around you, and then you can take your knowledge base and help people back home. And I think, that's where our strengths are as a province.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I really agree with you. On a final note, one of the questions that one of my colleagues asked me to ask you is, what should we expect within this coming budget for, again, our community, and what people should be looking up for or looking towards?
Well, and I'm gonna answer in general terms, because I think it's for Ontario as a whole. Okay. But this government is committed to preserving all of the gains we've made in healthcare, all the gains we've made in public education, the gains we've made in social services. So those are the three really core bases of this budget. How do we make sure that if someone is sick, they're helped? How do we make sure if someone wants to learn and grow, and if you have children in an education system that need a fair chance to really make it in life, how do they get that opportunity? And if someone is not, at a place where they need to be, they fall behind, because sometimes life can be tough and complicated. Absolutely. Well, how do we help them get to that next stage, to strengthen themselves? We've invested so much money into healthcare, education, social services, different employment programs, and they're all designed to do one thing. How do we strengthen the individual so they can go ahead and strengthen the world around them? And I think that's the core of what this budget's about. In past governments, we've seen when the money gets tight, with the Mike Harris government, slashes and burns. All over. I grew up in Flemington Park. Sometimes people classified as a priority neighborhood. Yeah. That's where I grew up. Yeah. When I was there and Mike Harris is in power, those programs got cut. I was a teenage.
Lawrence and Allen.
Don Mills and Eglinton.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, So those programs got cut. Those kids, didn't have after-school activities. Our government's not. We're not firing teachers. We're not. We're not. Getting rid of people. We're not cutting. Different types of. Programs that directly work with people. What we're saying is that. It's time, like I think in any situation where a family has pressure and they're going through tough economic times. Let's stop for a second. Let's make sure we put our investments where they really matter, with the strongest investments, the strongest return for that investment, and let's be a little bit more cautious on how we continue to navigate through these turbulent economic times. And I think that's exactly what this government's done. I joined this government as a Liberal because I believe in the values of making sure that we help all people advance forward. Making sure that everyone moves forward together, and not like the old conservative way where it's just some people move forward and it's mainly on the backs of everyone who's left behind. Yeah. And I think that's the big difference between what we're doing and what's been done in the past. And I'm proud of this budget.
Talking about you being in politics, I was watching you the other day in Parliament the last time, and what I noticed was we do not have any representation in there. And can that be one of the reasons why we don't really get what I believe we deserve? Well,
it's interesting you say that. If you look at the Conservative side, there's no visible minorities in the entire caucus, yes. Right? In the NDP, there's one, MPP Singh. He's fantastic, new legislative member. He's working hard, and that's great. But if you look at the Liberal side, it's the first time in the history of this province that parties had 2 elected members of African descent, me and Margaret.
Yes.
We have people from the Chinese, continent. We have people from the Middle East, from South Asia. Like, that's what the Liberals are about. It's like a coalition of different people under one umbrella to move forward together. If you look at, and I'll use that analogy a bit further, sometimes, like I said, life can be tough. And, if you use the analogy of the toughness in life is like a storm. The Liberals, they build one big umbrella and we invite everyone in together and we move forward in that storm together. And that's exactly what we're doing. And you can see it every single day in the Legislative Assembly. I think that, yes, there's more room and more opportunity for people from other backgrounds to be involved. Yeah. But I challenge the parties, in the opposition to become more reflective of the community they represent.
Because what I'm saying is, it doesn't necessarily have to be with the Liberal government.
No.
But then we just need representation. Period.
Exactly.
And so, what would be your advice through this media for us to get ourselves involved? What do we really need to do from the grassroots?
Most important thing, and I'll speak specifically as a Black Canadian, I think that people, obviously I'd like everyone to join the Liberal Party, but we have different beliefs and different ideologies, and that's great. So it's important to get involved into a political party.
Yeah.
Get involved in a political party. If you don't like politics from that sense, make sure you at least go out and vote. Mm-hmm. And if you want to minimize your if you do go out and vote and you want to just do a little bit more, at least challenge the status quo, ask people questions, encourage people who are next door who may be interested in politics to join political parties, to get out there, support candidates. I think there's a lot of opportunity for people in the Black community to learn about the political structure in this province, to participate, and to be members, to run, and you don't have to start off, don't focus on Queen's Park. Don't
Absolutely.
focus on, get involved in your condo board. Mm-hmm. Get involved in your child's not-for-profit organization. When you look at even boards, different boards, across the province, there's an underrepresentation of Black leadership at the table. Get involved at the local school board. Run, municipal.
How do you do that? How do we encourage people of African descent to be more involved? Because we always feel a little marginalized. You always feel nobody's going to listen to us anyway.
There's an organization called the African Diaspora Foundation. I believe they're at Don Mills in Eglinton. I went to go see them, and I said to one of the gentlemen there, I love asking this question, right? How do you get young, and I was talking specifically about Black males, how do I get Black males to get involved? Mm-hmm. And his answer was probably the best answer I've ever heard. And he said, Michael, once you have a sense of engagement, once you feel as though you were actually instrumental in making some type of change, mm-hmm. once that gets inside of you, it grows and it continues to grow. And that's when you're hooked in politics. Because if you think about it, I don't like focusing too much on negative, but if you think about it, young Black males, higher, dropout rate. There's, the higher unemployment rate. There's so many different factors. One of the number one groups targeted for hate crime. Number one child represented from 9 to I think 14 in Children's Aid Society. The statistics are not built up, specifically to support you as a young Black male growing up in Ontario, right? So, and that doesn't mean hard work doesn't pay off and you can't make it, because, I'm an example. I grew up in a tough neighborhood, but there's me and many guys from my neighborhood who were able to move forward, right? It really depends on what you want to do and how you want to go there. However, when you see sometimes these things in society, pushing you down a bit, you can go with, on a downward trend, right?
Right.
I challenge young Black males and, anyone from any community who feels as though they're being, marginalized, to get involved, have a say, be empowered. And empowerment really means having a bit of control of your environment around you. Once you can do that, it becomes addictive. You know that if you can get involved and you can make change and help the people around you, your community, that's real empowerment. Mm. And I'll tell you, once you get that in your blood, it just grows. And you become, you champion for change, for, standing up for people. And that's the type of thing that, that we need to make sure young people, have the experience of when they're out there. And, I just want to say one final thing in conclusion, that, it doesn't matter if you're from the Guyanese community, the Ghanaian community. If you're from, my father's from the Carriacou, which is off the coast of Grenada.
Right.
If you're from the Trinidadian, if you're someone who's of African descent, there may be so many differences in our communities, but when it really comes down to it, we all suffer from some of the same things.
Absolutely.
And we all need to work together. I was telling your Consular General a story, and you were there that day when I was telling the story, that, I was speaking to a young man from Ghana, and he said to me, he's explored the fish market. He's explaining how he cooks the food, and in Grenada, we cook the food the exact same way. The kingfish, the way it's prepared with tomato, onions. We use kuku, and he was using fufu. Yeah. Is that right?
Fufu, yeah.
And I'm sure kuku's, an original African
just a distorted way of pronouncing the fufu could be,
kuku. Yeah. So we use kuku. We roll it in a bowl and we take it out. We put the fish there. We put okra. It's the same thing. So the roots are all the same.
Absolutely.
We need to come together and make sure that at the end of the day we're focusing on the same causes, and that's really how do we take people who feel marginalized regardless of what culture you're from, and how do we bring them into the mix, and how do they get a say? Because you know what, they're paying taxes, they're citizens, they need to have a say.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, sir.
Oh, thank you for coming down.
Thank you so much. I hope to hear from you one more time.
Anytime you want to come down and talk, please invite me to the community events, and let me know, and I'd love not only to be a representative of my community, but hopefully I can help represent some of the interest of your community. Yeah, because we really do admire you. Yeah, that's why you're pointing out to me to talk to. Well, you know what? I appreciate that, and like I said, if there's anything I can do to support the community, please let me know. Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you. Bye.